You are tuned to ARP on the Accelerated Radio Network. It's 12 noon, and it's time to have lunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Bringing money talk you can understand. And now here's your host, Miss Charline.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Miss Charline from Lunch with the Finance Bunch. And today in our studio, we have Chef Beth Volpe. Hi, Chef Volpe.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
That's good. She has a meal prep business, and it's called Savory Eats by Beth. I'm so happy to be in your kitchen today. This is such an honor for us. We're completely outside of our element. We usually tape in the radio studio, but today we wanted to come into your kitchen to prepare a meal that people can eat not just once, but twice, and make it healthy at home. So why don't you let us know what you're cooking today?
Okay, what I'm doing is a dry rub tri-tip, which will turn into a beef burrito for tomorrow. We're going to do a roasted asparagus with lemon pepper, some roasted potatoes with garlic and rosemary, fresh rosemary. We'll make some pico de gallo so that we can use that with the steak if you want, but you can also use it with the burrito the next day. And then we'll make a little bit of very simple guacamole, very simple, using the pico de gallo, and then a berry crisp. And all of this will be lactose free.
Good, because I am lactose intolerant, so I asked Chef Beth to please cook something that I could eat. So that's why she's doing this meal for us today. So thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
let's get started.
Okay.
What are we doing here?
Biggest tip in the kitchen, gloves.
Okay.
Food safe gloves. And the reason for that is I handle so much food. I'm a personal chef, so I'm cooking upwards to 20 different sides and entrees
Oh, wow.
a day. And washing your hands just takes time, so it's much easier to put these things on and off. This is a piece of tri-tip, and this is what we're going to make the tri-tip with, as well as the burritos the next day. And the reason I'm showing you this is that tri-tip comes out of the package generally trimmed, otherwise a huge fat cap. On this particular one, it's trimmed, but it's not really trimmed as far as I like it. So I will usually just remove this type of fat, and it's simple to do. Just take it out of the package. This is a piece of muscle. This entire meat is a muscle. So it's got some very serious grain, but it also can become very tender when it's cooked. And most people know this piece of meat from the grill.
Right.
We're going to do it in an oven because if you're getting home from work, it's easier to just stick this in the oven, go get ready for the rest of the evening.
Right, and while the meat is cooking, you can help your children with their homework, or
Absolutely.
just kind of get away from the things that have happened all day, especially
Right.
things, you drive home from work and you're in traffic and all that, so to be able to come home and just put a tri-tip in the oven, take a shower, or do whatever you do to relax is wonderful.
And even though it's a big piece of meat, it cooks relatively fast.
Oh, okay.
We're going to cook this today to a medium because that's your preference.
Right.
If we were going to cook it to a medium rare, it could take 30 to 35 minutes. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but still not as long necessarily as it would take on a grill.
Right, so we're going to cook it to medium well.
Yeah, we're going to do a medium well.
Okay, and then what size meat is this?
These are generally about 5 pounds.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely a muscle piece of meat. I cut out anything I don't want to eat, which is fat, basically. So what I'm going to do is I have put together a dry rub here. And I happen to really like using dry rubs as opposed to like a wet marinade. There are two different ways of doing it. Either throw this in a baggie with even a bowl of salad or a bottle of salad dressing.
Okay.
But I prefer to use like a dry rub. So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to rub it all over my meat. And what we've got in here is we've got paprika, we've got oregano, we've got a little bit of cumin, we've got salt, pepper, we've got chili powder. You can use anything you want in a dry rub. My general rule of thumb is just a tablespoon of everything.
Oh, okay.
So you don't, and whatever you have, you can use fresh herbs if you want. I'm not using fresh herbs on this. I'm using all dried spices. I have a little dried ground up oregano in here as well. And you just cover it, and that's going to give it flavor. Now, if you have the time and you know you're going to be using this later in the evening, if you have the time in the morning, stick it in a baggie with the dry rub on and let it sit. And it'll just marinate, and it will infuse the meat.
Okay.
Then what I like to do is to take a little bit of olive oil, just kind of help it along.
Olive oil is the best cooking oil.
For this particular, yes, for this, definitely. There are other oils I use for other purposes, such as, like, I'll use a rice bran oil if I'm doing fish, because it has a really high smoke point and I like to sear. But, yeah, olive oils are great. It's great. And a lot of times when you do a dry rub like this, you would sear it in a pan first.
Yes.
We're not going to do that. You don't really need to do that for this particular piece of meat. And there it is.
Oh, wow.
So that's it. Once you have your dry rub made, that's basically it.
It looks like it's going to be very flavorful, too.
It should. It definitely should. This is going to cook at 350, and we're going to time it. I'm going to be bringing it here. And we're going to time it.
45 minutes or 30
I'd say about 45 minutes.
Okay.
And let it go. It's very important, too, when you're cooking any kind of meat or roast, to have a thermometer, an instant meat thermometer. They're good quality ones can run up towards about $60 to $100.
Where do you get them from?
I order mine online from Thermapen.
Okay.
It's a wonderful, wonderful thermometer. I have purchased over the years many, many meat thermometers. The big round ones, the ones with the big thermometer that goes in, the piece that goes in. And they don't work for me. This is instant, it's fast, it's professional. This is what chefs use in kitchens.
Okay. So they need a meat thermometer. I don't own one, so I think I should buy one.
You will not go wrong with this type of a thermometer.
Okay. And it lets you know when the meat is done.
Oh, absolutely. And you can tell right away. Otherwise, it's a guessing game.
Exactly.
You know, and with somebody like you who wants their meat medium or medium well, that's not a big deal. But for people that want rare meat or medium rare, it is a problem.
It becomes a bigger deal.
Yeah, so you definitely want to be able to handle that. Next up, we're going to do the potatoes. I'm doing things in the order that I think they're going to take to cook, so we can get them out of the way. The reason I have my potatoes in a bag is because I'm going to reuse this bag. And I'm going to actually put all of my ingredients into the bag, shake it up, and then it's going to get poured onto the pan. Most of these are already cut. I left a few out just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm doing with them. I'm using small red potatoes. You can use Yukon Golds, little ones. You can use big potatoes. It doesn't really matter. Just keep them into pieces that are bite-sized and easy for people to eat. So with this, a potato this size, I'll cut it in quarters. If it's a smaller potato, I'll cut it in half. That way everything cooks evenly. This is a smaller potato. We'll just cut it in half. Potatoes all go in the bag. This is from my garden. I have an organic heirloom garden.
Oh, wow.
And I get a lot of herbs from there. I get a lot of my spices, things, a lot of my veggies, especially heirloom tomatoes, one of my favorites. So I have a lot of that. And this will season the potatoes nicely. We're just going to give it a rough chop.
One of these days we'll have to come and take a look at your garden.
Oh yeah, it's fun. I love gardening. We have fruit as well, and Meyer lemons, limes, pomegranates. And I like to bring it in the kitchen. I mean, there's nothing better than fresh herbs.
It smells so good too.
Yeah. I work in a commercial kitchen, and all of the people that come through there will say, "It smells like Christmas."
Yes.
I'm like, that's Rosemary. That's what Rosemary does. This is going to take some garlic. I'm using a mincer. You can chop it up if you want. There are many ways to do it, but the things I'm doing today are fast things that you can do when you get home from work. You can get your meal prepared and don't have to worry about your fancy cutting. I love using a mincer. These actually can take a garlic clove with its skin. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, it's nice.
So the things that we're going to buy so far are a meat thermometer, so we know how
That's a
well
must.
the meat is cooked. That's a must. And we're going to get, what's this thing called?
This is a mincer. You can
A
tell
mincer.
mine's been around the block.
Okay,
a lot,
so we'll get a mincer for the garlic
or
to make it go quickly.
You
Or
can
chop it
actually
up.
you can chop it up, and you can also buy jarred garlic.
That's very true. That's what I usually do.
So
I
that's
usually
perfectly
buy
fine.
Organic garlic already minced.
Yeah, that's fine. We do that sometimes in the kitchen for certain recipes. It just depends on the client and it depends on the recipe.
Yeah.
But absolutely, there's no reason you can't open up a jar and do that.
Okay, good.
And then I just sort of throw a little pepper in here. I throw a little bit of salt in here. For this amount of potatoes, you would probably throw a teaspoon of salt in. And then you'll actually put in about 1/3 of a cup of olive oil. Nothing here has to be measured out exact. It's just not that type of a meal. No. Seal it up. This is all I do.
Shake it.
I just shake it up. Yeah. And again, if you get it up in the morning and you have time, do this. Shake it up, stick it in the refrigerator, and it actually marinates the potatoes.
Right. What about the night before?
Absolutely.
Like the night before, because in the morning I don't leave time for any type of preparation of
Yeah.
anything but myself. So that would work for me at night, like
Yes.
the night before to prep something like this. Okay, so
Definitely.
either first thing in the morning or the night before works, so that when you come home from work, all you have to do is put it in the oven and cook everything.
That's correct.
Okay.
And same with the meat. The meat can be
Okay.
done the
It can
day
be
before.
done the day before.
Anything can be done the day before.
Okay.
These things, nothing's going bad on this. And as long as it's refrigerated and kept at a safe temperature, you're fine.
So now our potatoes are ready to go
Potatoes
into
are
the
done. So
oven.
you see, it doesn't take very
Oh,
much
it
at all.
looks good and it's like even.
Yeah, it does. You can put it in a bowl. You can use your hands, and it's messy, and you're washing a bowl and you're washing your hands.
No, I like the
To me, this is the best way. And I will say that I foil up all my pans, which most of us do.
Yes.
But I also use a non-stick foil on top, so that potatoes like this will stick to foil.
Yes.
So I use a sheet of non-stick foil. It's perfect. It just works perfect.
So our meat and our potatoes are now in the oven. Get this in, right?
That's right. Meat and potatoes in.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah, it's
That was pretty
fast.
quick.
It's
So what are we
definitely
doing
quick.
next?
All right, let's do the berry.
Okay.
This is a berry crisp. You can use anything you want to use in this. It can be apples, it can be pears, it can be whatever you have left over. This is a very forgiving recipe
Okay.
and a really wonderful recipe as well. So I'm going to get this stuff out of here.
I'd like to say I love your pan, the heart-shaped
Yeah.
pan. I haven't had a heart-shaped pan before. That's
I
nice.
know, they're fun. Well, it makes a nice presentation
It
too. And part of
does.
cooking is
The presentation.
the presentation, I think. Yes, definitely. I'm going to take all my ingredients over here.
Okay.
So what I did is I have about 6 cups of berries in here. I have blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, raspberries. And to this, I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of regular all-purpose flour. If I was making this for a gluten-free client, I would be using gluten-free flour.
Right.
And I do that, so. This will give the berries just a bit of a thickening agent. It'll make a nice little soupy gravy. They've been washed. Make sure they're washed.
That looks yummy already. Excuse me.
Yeah. I don't add any sugar to this because you have enough sweetener,
Right.
natural sweetening in the berries. If you want to use other fruits like apples or pears, things that oxidize,
Yes.
then you'll want to add a little bit of lemon juice to it.
Oh, okay.
These berries will not oxidize. They're going to be fine, so we don't need to add anything.
It looks yummy.
Now what we're going to do is make a crust, and I'm going to do an oatmeal crust.
Okay.
Now, again, if you're a gluten-free client of mine, I would be using a gluten-free flour. But
Right.
in this case, we're not going to do that. So we've got about 3/4 of a cup of regular all-purpose flour. We've got about 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. And then we have 3/4 of a cup of oatmeal. And I like to just mix this around a little bit. Normally, I would say to put about 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt into this, but we're using a lactose-free butter, which is salty.
Okay.
And that's something you always have to be aware of, that if you're cooking, you always want to cook with unsalted butter so that you have the control over the butter or the salt that you put into it. This has salt in it, so it will be salty, and if you add additional salt, you've got yourself, a bit of a problem.
Have too much salt in it.
Yes, definitely. I'm going to add about 1/3 of a cup of this.
Now, I use this butter myself because I am lactose intolerant, so it
Yeah.
works for me.
It's great. It's a great alternative to people that cannot have butter. And there are great alternatives out there now. Just going to take this and put this away. Get rid of it.
Okay.
Here come the gloves and here come my hands.
Okay.
So I'm just going to incorporate all of this dry ingredient into the butter, so that when it bakes, all of the butter sort of drizzles on top of this and makes it really delicious.
Well, my whole team can't wait for this meal to be done. We've been talking about this meal for 2 weeks.
We're going to take 3/4 of a cup of regular sugar. You got that in here. It's kind of relaxing.
Yes.
Something to do.
Therapeutic.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so it's pretty well incorporated.
Okay.
Off with the glove. Put a little bit of cinnamon in. If you like allspice, you can add a little allspice. You can add nutmeg. You can add anything you want to it.
I love cinnamon.
Yeah, I do too.
I even put cinnamon in my protein shakes. It
Oh,
has a
really?
calming effect for some reason, yes. So,
So we're just going to spread this out. This will take about 40 to 45 minutes to cook. And you know it's done when the top is brown and it's bubbling.
so that's going into our
This
oven
is going to go
also?
into our oven also.